NASCAR wants the next-gen car to be harder to drive. You saw the flat-out footage from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. yesterday, but in a new article, NASCAR claims that they want the next-gen car to be hard to drive. We will be talking about how they are accomplishing this, as well as a few other racing notes from around the world of racing. Let's get into it. So first, open wheel. Mercedes Formula E drivers Nick DeVries and Stoffel Vandoorne will be testing Indy cars on December 6th at Sebring International Raceway for a one-day test. DeVries will drive for Meyer Shank Racing, while Vandoorne obviously will drive for Arrow McLaren SP. Vandoorne is more likely of the two to be at least part-time in IndyCar next year, but of course we'll have to see how the test goes because Nico Hülkenberg tried IndyCar and did not like it. According to MoparInsiders.com, Tony Stewart will be announcing his NHRA team partners as early as next month, and it's heavily rumored that those partners will include Dodge in some form. So, as we have been covering and following this NASCAR Dodge story, one of the names that keeps coming up both in front of and behind the scenes is Tony Stewart potentially leading the charge of Dodge returning to NASCAR, and I think our biggest clue yet will be unveiled when Smoke unveils his partners. But the most important story that pretty much everybody's got on their minds right now is NASCAR next-gen testing. That's what folks are talking most about. A few changes were made to the cars yesterday, including a 1-inch reduction in spoiler size. Now that gave teams roughly half a second of lap time than they had yesterday. So the lap times went from low 32s and high 31s to mid to high 31-second lap times. That's still much slower than the 29-second pole time that Kyle Larson got at the Coke 600 last year, but they're moving in the right direction. This was also the first time we publicly saw NASCAR's new single lug nut pit stops. Here's some footage courtesy of Charlotte Motor Speedway and their social media team. Let me know in the comments what you think these pit stops look and sound like. Now, there are a couple of very interesting notes arriving today on the difficulty of driving these next-gen cars, because again, we saw that footage of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. doing multiple laps flat to the floor, WFO as they say, around Charlotte Motor Speedway. But there were a couple of things that came out today that hopefully will quell a few fears of total flat-out racing. The first is from Bob Pockrass of Fox Sports, and this is his tweet, claiming that Ross Chastain said he had 2 seconds of tire fall off over the course of a 35-lap run, which is just about a fuel stint. That's a good sign for those of you wishing to see the drivers have to fight the cars over the course of a run. If you got tire fall off, you have less grip, and less lap time generally means the drivers will be searching around the track, multiple grooves, trying to find racing room, and hopefully that will be exciting. Covers and goers, that's what we're looking for. Jim Utter of Motorsport.com got some key quotes from NASCAR's Senior Vice President of Racing Innovation, John Probst, about the next-gen car. The link to the full article will be in the description, and it's well worth a read. Here's what Probst said that I think is the most key of that entire article. He said, "We don't want the cars to be easy to drive. We've always said we want the best drivers running up front." And I think if you look at a lot of the changes we've made to the car, a lot of the side force that used to be in the car is gone, so it's not as forgiving as it's been before. Now, we saw yesterday, and you've seen the footage probably by now, of some of the cars spinning out yesterday. And the way I kind of see it is that the spins look very IndyCar. And I think there's a big part of that. Number one, you have a stiff chassis now, much stiffer than it has been in the past, different construction. But you also have even sides of the car. The car is symmetrical. So when you hear the words side force, I'm not an engineer. I can't fully explain it in a way that a NASCAR crew chief would be able to. But I do have my little $300 eBay Kyle. No, I didn't actually pay $300 on eBay, but that's what it's going for on eBay right now. My little $300 diecast right here. And I can kind of show you how side force was generated, or one of the ways side force was generated on the previous gen cars. So when I say the next gen car is symmetrical, if you look at like a Group C car or even this V8 supercar, the sides of the car, whether it's the left or right side, are exactly the same. That's good for road racing, obviously, because you don't want one corner generally to be favored over another. But when you're turning left most of the time, you want the car to be good in left-handed turns. So if you look, and actually this is probably the easier way to show it off. So if you look here on, I guess this is my right, your left side of the car, you can see how it slopes in here, and it's completely flat on this side of the car. Now this is one of the ways they generate side force on a NASCAR race car, used to. I think we used to call them twisted sisters. I don't think we really do that anymore because with the Gen 6 and Gen 5 in particular, the body styles were very standardized. There were some things that the teams would do to screw with the bodies, but it was less than we kind of saw in the Gen 4 era. Now with the next gen car, you no longer have that advantage. The bodies the bodies are spec, more or less. I mean, they're different between the OEMs, but the actual teams have much less authority in designing those bodies or hanging those bodies and whatnot. So what we are seeing is a car right now, and I firmly believe, by the way, that a couple of races in, some teams will figure out how to make this car extremely stable, and we won't be seeing as many random spins as we are seeing now. But the way business has been done in stock car racing has essentially totally changed, at least in the modern era, the modern sense of the word. So when you have NASCAR saying, we're trying to make the cars hard to drive, and then you see that contrast of, well, they're flat out for multiple laps at a time, where does that come in? I think it's just the fact that if you get it wrong, the car, very much like an Indy car or a sports car or a V8 supercar, rather than having some side force to rely on, the car is just going to spin, especially at high speeds on a high-speed oval. If you think about like Indy cars at Texas Motor Speedway, now that's an extreme example because they put slick crap all over the track, but when a car misses a corner in IndyCar on a big oval, the mofo's going around and it's going to be a big hit. And so that's what we've kind of seen a lot with the next gen testing, and I think that's what the drivers are experiencing. So going into the season, that's going to be something I think to watch. Is not necessarily like you're going to be seeing necessarily arms and elbows, drivers really working hard, but when it goes wrong, it's going to go badly wrong. It's going to go wrong fast. So it'll be, there's so much unknown, and the fact that they really didn't run in packs, they did run in lines a couple of times today, but I really don't think we're really going to know until the first Daytona of next year. The duels will kind of be our real test of what these cars are going to do in traffic with 20 plus cars out there. I don't really count the Clash because it's on a slow track, and what do you really expect to learn from that, where you still have a majority of the season being contested on high-speed ovals? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments section below. Do you have a better explanation of side force than I do? I know I explained it very much in layman's terms, but I hope it's easy enough for those of you who have absolutely no idea what people are talking about when you hear about side force. There's something right there. So, subscribe for more motorsport content, and I will see you in the next video.